thank our witnesses for taking time out of your day to participate in this discussion. Before we get to today's hearing, though, we have a couple of other housekeeping items. I want to emphasize the importance of Social Security statements. The Social Security Administration is required to mail out statements to all workers every year so that Americans know about their future Social Security benefits and can plan for retirement. Statements also allow workers to make sure that the Social Security Administration has a complete and accurate record of their earnings, so they will receive the full benefit in retirement. Unfortunately, today's statements are not being mailed to all workers. This committee has a record of bipartisan support for the Social Security statement, and I am proud to have introduced the Know Your Social Security Act with Vern Buchanan last year to ensure that every worker receives their statement by mail every year as required by the law. As a former teacher, I would also add that I think this provides a great opportunity for both civic education and financial literacy, and increasingly becomes important to all of our citizens. Now to the main event. We are here today because COVID and its consequences that have exacerbated the inadequacies that have existed for a long time in our Social Security system. Today, we're going to be hearing from people in their own words about Congress's neglect to help the very citizens we're sworn to serve. Now, I say neglect. It's been 38 years since Congress has done anything to strengthen Social Security, and 50 years since we have improved its benefits. 50 years. Social Security is by far and away the nation's most successful and popular insurance program. You only have to look at the data behind me to understand that, as all polling would indicate. However, current benefits, as we will learn today, are inadequate, unfair, and in many cases discriminatory because of systemic economic inequities. Benefits haven't kept pace with the cost of living, nor all the changes that have occurred over the last 50 years. During this time, global economy, trade, technology, lack of strong labor unions has created downward pressure on wages, making it harder to save for retirement. 65 million Americans currently rely on Social Security benefits, yet many still struggle just to make ends meet. To the shame of this nation, millions have worked all their lives, paid into a system, and receive a below poverty line check from Social Security. Millions of our fellow citizens. You know what the poverty line is? It's $12,880. Who could live on that? Yet millions of our fellow Americans receive below poverty level checks, adding to the wealth disparity and further eroding the middle class. Look, nobody gets wealthy off of Social Security. It's a subsistence level program. Here are the facts. 4 in 10 beneficiaries rely on Social Security for the majority of their income. The average retired worker receives just $18,500 a year in Social Security benefits. For women, that number is even lower. It's $16,000 a year. I want to acknowledge Representatives Terry Sewell, Stephen Horsford, and Jimmy Gomez for leading the Racial Equity Initiative in this committee and underscoring that millions of our fellow citizens are receiving below poverty level checks. They are disproportionately women and predominantly women of color and Black males. As our esteemed colleague John Lewis said, without Social Security, almost half of the Black and Latino seniors in this country would be living in poverty. That's not right, that's not fair, and that's not just. John recognized this problem in Social Security for what it is, a civil rights issue. This is not an executive branch responsibility or anything the judicial branch will act on. This is up to Congress. This is up to this committee. We are grateful that we have a president who regards Social Security as a sacred trust between the federal government and the people. We are working with him to deliver on that promise and keep that sacred trust. Just this week, the Congressional Progressive Caucus Center underscored this in its recent report on retirement security. In it, they state, Congress should address Social Security in this Congress. It should hold hearings, mark up, report out, and vote as a body on a package that at least represents the reforms proposed by President Biden, as well as other expansions. I commend President Biden, who embraces WEP reform, as do bills sponsored by Chairman Neal, Ranking Member Brady. This is an issue we will hear about today from a former teacher in Mr. Brady's state of Texas. And let's be clear about this. This is a responsibility of the Ways and Means Committee, and specifically this subcommittee. We can no longer kick the can down the road. For everyone listening and viewing out there, understand what that means. What kicking the can literally means is postponing the fierce urgency of acting now, and will result in literally kicking seniors to the curb, kicking veterans with disabilities to the curb, kicking spouses and dependent children to the curb who have been waiting for more than 50 years for this body to act. That is unacceptable. Today, we will hear from real people and their stories. We will hear from people who are struggling to survive on inadequate benefits, who have been discriminated against through the windfall elimination provision, and from racial inequities. Everyone on this committee knows the urgency. 10,000 baby boomers a day become eligible for Social Security, and millennials will need and rely on this program more than their parents do. Every congressional district is affected. We don't have to go back to 1935 to demonstrate what happened in the aftermath of the Great Depression. We only have to go back to the Great Recession of 2008 and 2009, when people witnessed their 401k become a 101k. During that same time, the sacred trust they have in Social Security prevailed. Social Security never missed a payment, not a pension payment, a spousal or dependent payment, or a disability benefit. That is why it's America's most popular program and why they're counting on us to act now. And with that, I'll recognize my good friend,